Hello people, Challenger guys coming at you with a bit of a recap video. It is currently May 12th and Ankama just did their Ankama live stream regarding the upcoming update coming to the game that revolves around. The big thing is going to be the changes to critical hits, and we'll talk about that pretty soon here. But Ankama reached out to me because, of course, they're French, they speak French, they do their live stream in French. And they reached out for me to deliver the information and the news in English for the English community, for you guys. So make sure you hit this like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Let it be known that you guys are interested in this kind of stuff. You like seeing this stuff be translated as soon as it can, real time, and all that good stuff. Hit the like button, subscribe, and comment. Let me know your thoughts on changes. Good, bad, like it, don't like it, and all that good stuff. But let's move on. I want to keep this short because the live stream, I believe the live stream was like an hour and a half. Try to keep this under 10 minutes if I can. So as you guys can see here in the image, critical hits, that's going to be the big thing here. Redesigning of critical hits. So the big thing is that critical hits will now become a percentage stat instead of a fixed ratio. Each spell or weapon has a basic critical hit rate, which will be added to the critical hit bonus brought by the array. So if you can see here, the old leak pie is on the left, and the reworked leak pie is on the right. Leak pie caps out at 1/2, but this new percentage-based crit system goes beyond that. So you could have leak pie over 50%. And the good thing here is that you can really lean into critical hits. Critical hits will no longer be volatile as long as you have a high critical hit ratio, and no longer it's going to be capped at 1/2, which is 50%. So making a full-on critical hit is going to be a thing here, but also you got to be careful because we'll counter critical hits, critical hit resistances, right? So yeah, this is change that it is coming to the game. It's going to be applied to all the spells and all that good stuff. And let's see here. Yep, and of course, they did talk about the DOFUS. Anything related to critical hits is going to be changed to the new system here. So if you have a plus 15 DOFUS, it's going to be reworked to say plus 15% and all that good stuff. So overall, critical hits are going to be a little bit more accessible, which is good. Just got to be mindful with critical hit resistances because you know, that's going to be a way to counter that and balance it in a sense. Ecaflip. Ecaflip is going not through a revamp, but they did rework the Ecaflip, and I'm not a big Ecaflip player. I never was fond of the class or found it appealing, but I love what they did here. So the big thing with Ecaflip is that how do I explain it? So Ecaflip is very known as a very as a risk taker, as a gambler type, right? That's this whole archetype of the character. But they changed them because in accordance with the critical hit change, they kind of had to redesign them a little bit. So the new system with Ecaflip is that Ecaflip can now be built chance, earth, and agility. But within those branches, you have two different modes you could approach Ecaflip in. So two chance builds might not even be the same, which is kind of interesting and super cool if you think about it. So the thing with Ecaflip is because they're a chance-based class, crits are very chance-based. The Ecaflip, when it crits, it's gonna get different effects depending if it crits or not. So as an Ecaflip, the choice is gonna be up to you if you want to run a non-crit water Ecaflip or a crit water Ecaflip, right? And those two, they might have a lot of overlap in playstyle, but they're gonna have little quirks and little differences that kind of differentiate it. And depending on what you want to do, you may want to lean more into crits or more into non-crits, or go 50-50 and leave it up to chance. So as you guys can see here, let's look at craps here for a second. Craps, 37 to 40 water damage, pretty standard. When it hits, the enemy gets minus pushback resistance for 1 turn. and you get 15 pushback damage. Okay, now let's keep reading the additional effects. On a standard cast, applies a pushback resistance penalty on enemies in the area of effect. On critical hit, increases pushback damage for each enemy in the area of effect. So you guys can see how there's kind of like this dual mode to this crit or non-crit spells. Let's look at Top Jack. 21 to 24 water steel effect minus 5% critical hits. And additional effects on a standard cast, which they called classic mode in the French stream. So if you're looking at the French stream, this is what they're referring to. Classic mode is the non-crit mode, which is standard mode. On a standard cast, reduces the target's odds of critical hits. On a critical hit, increases the base damage of Top Jack spell next time it is cast. So, like a spell like that, right? You could be a little bit more defensive or a little bit more offensive. And I haven't taken a really good look at these, but this is kind of what to expect with the Ecaflip now. Let's look at, and the spells are here. Feel free to pause the screen. These are the Earth spells. Playful Claw. On a standard cast, the caster gains 1 AP each time one of the targets lands a critical hit on its next turn. This effect lasts 3 times. On a critical hit, the target that lands critical hits on their next turn loses AP. I don't know about y'all, but that's super interesting and super dynamic. When you, especially for VVP, when you fight an Ecaflip, you don't know what's coming at you. It has like this this aura of like mystique, like you know they're Earth built, but you don't know which Earth built they are. So you're gonna have to take extra measures to kind of prepare for this kind of stuff. Reflex, I know that's another popular Ecaflip spell. Standard cast, the unhealable HP penalty extended by 1 turn. On a crit, spell's damage is greater and has a fixed value. So it looks like a lot of these are like defense mode, offensive mode. But yeah, that's a big thing with the Ecaflip. And here are the agility spells. Here, let's take a look. I wanted to take a look at Bluff. And you guys might notice some stuff kind of shifted around, different elemental branches. Bluff, standard cast. The lock penalty is greater. On critical hit, the spell damage is greater and has a fixed value. Yeah, so it looks like overall the crit is going to be more offensive, and non-crit is going to be more passive. So there you have it, folks. And I'm not sure if this is the update where, because I know Ecaflip had intelligence spells, so I don't know if this is where they're kind of consolidating on the 3 elemental paths, but there you go. And that's Ecaflip for Ecaflip folks out there. Other changes: Sram, Enutrof, and Sadida have minor changes. I would say not updates, but changes. Let's see. So let's start with the Eni. So the Eni loses its Earth mark to remain consistent with the 3 paths of the class. It makes sense. You know, it sucks when a character just loses a tool or an option. But yeah, I mean, there's no Earth Enies. You can't build an Earth Eni. And it's that effect is highly dependent on playing with another Earth character. So that was a change they are implemented for Enutrof. Let's move on to Sadida. The Sadida Earthquake can no longer reveal invisible enemies. I'm not sure how much of an impact that's going to have, but that's a change they're going with Sadida. Oh, actually, they do explain. They do explain why they changed the Earthquake. It's because the Sram is receiving changes to invisibility. So let's talk about Sram really quick. The invisibility of the Sram gets an extra turn to cast after each use of the spell. So from my understanding, this is a little bit confusing, and I do need to clarify this. But from my understanding, every time you use invisibility spell, it adds one extra turn to it. I'm not sure if they're messing with the cooldowns. So imagine this. You start the fight, you go invisible, but it only lasts one turn. Okay? And then it's your next turn, and then you can use the spell again. But next time you use it, the invisibility effect lasts 2 turns now. So it kind of stacks up like that. Again, I'm not sure if they're reducing the cooldown all the way to 1, and you kind of move your way up. But that is the one of the changes to Sram. The other one is to the double. The double is now controllable, and it dies after 3 turns. And the spell restarts time. Let's see, the spells. Oh, and the cooldowns reduce on it because of that effect. So those are the 2 changes coming to Sram. And last one is Enutrof. I know a lot of people are complaining about bribery, and they did address it here. The bribery state is changed to pacifist and weakened. This way, the corrupted character will be able to play his turn, but will not be able to do any damage or use his melee attacks. And they did receive another change to clumsiness. Can now be cast in a line or diagonal only. So I'm sure people, especially PvP people, will be happy with that change. But those are the changes coming to these classes. Let me see what we got next. Runes. Runes are getting a little bit of a rework in terms of sync value. Some of the syncs are changing. Let's see. The critical hit rune, again, because of the changes to the critical hit system, the critical hit rune changes sync. It goes from 30 to 10. The subject has been discussed internally, and the main problem is that people were using sync to overmage. The reason sync to overmage their stuff from crits, and they kind of want to approach it at a different angle. They don't want to neglect that critical hits they want to acknowledge that critical hits are kind of like a big deal now, especially since you can push over 50%. So every critical hit count, especially when it comes to Ecaflip, right? If you want to knock non-crit build, most likely you want to mage the critical hit stat out of your gear. So you're more consistent with your more defensive effects of your spells, which is really cool. Again, this adds a lot of whole like dynamic angle to the game, where it's like you could go one way or the other, and it gives you the option. It gives that option to that player. Really cool. So now, so crit is now 10 sync. It's a little bit easier to mage in, mage out. Vit goes to 0.2 sync per vitality, and it's a little bit more coherent with other runes. This allows overmage of 505 instead of 404. Besides that, there's not really big changes. And again, this is a cool thing they thought of. A hunting room, they've reduced the sync on it. Just makes it a little bit easier to mage your weapons if you're a hunter and not ruin your weapon because you're trying to slap a hunting rune on it. And another big thing, which I'm a big fan of, is that the sync, the weight, is now displayed on the rune. No more going to an external source, taking you out of the game to look at sync values and stuff like that. As you guys can see here on the AP rune, Smith magic weight 100 because AP rune has 100 sync. Super cool, streamlining. The more easier you make this for people and not take them out of the game. I'm always analytical and a little bit of stickler when it comes to game design. And when a game doesn't give you information and it makes you go to an external source to find that information, it's bad game design. At least I think of it that way. But so I like the streamlining. So that is runes. Okay. Resistances. This is something they talked about in the missive earlier this year. it had a big point of contention with a lot of people. A lot of people were for it, a lot of people were against it. Even internally, they had a lot of discussions whether this was a good or bad idea. And it is a big change to the game. It is a big way to the pacing of the game. You know, they talked about how the people who were against it had, you know, these were the points of contention. They mentioned that the players economically wouldn't want to adapt their gear to this new 35% cap on resistances. And the second one is fighting against monsters. So those were like the points for against it. But they found ways around it. For the first one, there will probably be some crumbs to adapt and some changes to make, but it's for the good of the game in the long vision. That was a pro for it regarding that contradiction. For the second one, if we realize that it's really too punishing, it's not impossible to see more balancing on concerning to fights. So, you know, if killing enemies becomes such a slugfest, you know, they could tweak it. They could tweak the resistances on enemies, so that's not big of a deal. So the change from 50% to 35% resistances it is confirmed. It is happening. They are moving along with it. I think it's good. Personally, I think lower resistances will definitely pick up the pace when it comes to PvP. I spoke about this in earlier videos where like there's nothing like worse than like just hitting a wall when somebody has 50% resistances and you know your damage output is just not it's being outpaced by their damage output just because they're crazy resistances. So I think it's good for the game. I'm for it. If you're not, let me know in the comments below why. And again, this is a point I kind of been driving for the better part of the year, if not even last year too. I think they want to go more with a snappier, faster paced combat, and I think this is a good change for that direction. So 35% resistances. Next up, new trophies. They've been talking about this for a while, but it's finally gonna happen. New trophies. A lot of these, if you guys are familiar with PC DOFUS, a lot of these are inspired by that. Especially the Nomad and Shaker, which are kind of staples on PC DOFUS, especially for like up and coming characters. You're gonna see trophies with limitations with set bonuses. So if you have a set that's a 3-piece set, you won't be able to use trophies with these set bonus less than 2 limitations. Cool, more stuff in the game, more equipment, more ways to build your character, more options, always a good thing. Let's see. Balancing of old trophies. They did talk about a little bit of kind of tweaking pushback and pushback damage. Let me check my notes if there's anything worth pointing out. It was also an opportunity to balance the old push damage and push resistance trophies to be more consistent with the current state of the game. So they updated those. So if you're pushback build, feel free to pause the screen here. New game sounds. This was kind of weird. It was kind of like just out of nowhere, but apparently they're gonna be adding new music, new sound effects to the game. So they did a little video where they were showcasing like the before and after on the music, which is cool. It just means more atmosphere to the game. One thing that has been a pet peeve of mine is that a lot of spells kind of reuse the same sound effects, which kind of like I never liked. I know like especially when they were doing like the crawl revamp, I would recognize like the sound effect for like mistake on some of the stuff. So new game sounds, yay for people. Movement preview. This is cool. This is a nice little quality of life update. You can now, if you kind of like tap over an enemy with a spell that's got a move them around, you can now see where they are going to. Again, similar to PC DOFUS, quality of life improvement, gives you more information, gives you exactly what your spell's gonna do, how it's gonna behave, what the outcome is gonna be. So if you push somebody, you know, if you kind of hover over them, it's gonna show you like a little shadow version of where they're gonna end up, pretty much. Okay, let's keep going. Progression packs. So this is gonna be an additional, or more or less expanding on kind of the packs they have now. I forget their names, but I know one's like the Explorer pack, and there's like a Trojan pack, something like that. But it's the packs where if you're not high enough level, you can't get them. So they're kind of adding more into this. And these are going to be based on Albura, so super cool. So you got your low level pack, your medium pack, and your end game pack. Another thing, if you guys notice this little like seller icon, so this is going to be a new item on the shop, on the I would imagine for premium currency guillotines. So this is really cool. So if you have a level 200 character and you just want to play a different character, right? You kind of done it all with your class. It's like, I want to try a new class. You could get one of these like hourglasses, and the next time you make a new character, it'll be at level 200. So for those who are just familiar with the game, who just don't want to go through the grind again, right? This is a huge time saver just to get another character up and running at level 200. So no more endless grinding, no more retreading old grounds when you just want to play a new character. Super cool. And let's see. Legendary weapons. We all love those, don't we? You guys know how I feel about it. So legendary weapons. Actually, let me check my notes here because there's a little bit of information regarding these. Legendary weapons. We promise you to study the subject, and after study, some changes are coming to this update. As you can see in this picture, weapons are no longer linked to the account, so they're going to be treated more like DOFUS, where like even though they're like this mythical OP item in terms of like the lore of the game, you could exchange them. I don't know if you could put them in the market, but you could exchange them. This implies many things. First of all, we wanted to value the people who got their legendary weapon before this update. So an exclusive title will be created for these people with no other way to get it. Those who already have the weapon on their account will receive this during the update. It's a nice little perk there for the people who stuck it out. I tried, man. I tried. But it was just right. Luck of the straw, or straw of the luck. However that saying goes. Yeah, there was very little you could influence the outcome. It's just you were either lucky or not. That's what it came down to. Then to value the people who dropped the weapon, the obtained weapon will now have a line that indicates the person who dropped the weapon. It's very similar to when a crafter or a smith mage kind of signs a weapon. Super cool. And finally, a small detail. But from the update, the challenges will... Oh, okay. This is a pretty big deal. From the update, the challenges will influence drop rates of the weapon. So, cool. I mean, you can influence the drop rate now, which is cool. It makes those mindless fights a little bit more dynamic. You gotta pay attention a little bit more, but again, the drop rates on these are so low. It's still kind of based on luck, so just a little bit less this time. Just a fraction, tiny little fraction less. Okay, next up, they did talk about new Ascension Island rewards, and they showed off this really cool set. And this happens to be a cosmetic set. This is not a real set. New cosmetics join the NPC of the Ascension Island who will exchange this item for some of your tokens. It was cool. And this is the Dark Shushu Night set. So intimidating. I like it. And that is about it, folks. That is all there is. That was all that was covered during the live stream. And let me know your thoughts. Let me know your feelings. You're excited? Are you hyped? Or are you on the camp that they're ruining the game? But there it is, folks. That is all the news that came out of the live stream. Hope you guys enjoyed. Big thanks to the people who joined the live stream. It was a little bit rough. I just woke up because it is like 6 in the morning for me. But I just got up and started live streaming. I tried to put this together as best I can, but this is where I'm doing the recap video. And for the people who just want the information delivered. But again, comment, subscribe, hit the like, super important. You know, let Ankama know that you're interested in English content. You're interested in having English information delivered to the English community, not just French and Spanish, or mainly French. And until next time, this has been Challenger EX. Take care of yourself, and peace.